This Mark 6 Golf is, without question, the worst car I have ever owned.
Now, I've had this car on the channel previously, but all you need to know is that I made the massive mistake of buying this car off of a scammer down an abandoned country lane, and what do you know? The car turned out to be complete trash. On the drive home, we discovered it had a slow puncture, the engine light came on, which ended up being the EGR valve, the rear brakes and handbrake was shot, the body control module needed replacing, and on it went. And now 6 months later, she's broken again. Catastrophically.
At the time of recording this video, I somehow own 8 cars. And they're all complete junk. Not a single one of them works. We've had to hire this car to get us through this rough patch. The missus is not pleased with me. Moreover, she's 9 months pregnant and we can't extend this rental any longer. I need this Golf back on the road ASAP. And to work out how I've gotten myself into this whole situation, we need to go back to when this car was in one piece.
It all started as we were driving home from the pub with some friends.
Oh, it stinks.
That's really bad.
It's like, don't stop. Keep going.
I can smell a lot of burning. I'm doing 35 miles an hour. Alright, so I've just been to the pub with some friends, and this car is, you're probably not picking it up on camera, but it's juddering like there's no tomorrow. And this isn't good. I need to nurse this car home. How far away do you reckon we are? We're about...
Not too far.
Not too far, maybe 2 miles, 3 miles from home. You might be able to see the steering wheel doing its own thing. Just try and get this car home, if it can get home, and then take it from there. So I just came home, and if you just put your hand up to this wheel, it is absolutely right. It's like an oven, that is. And so it would very much seem as though I have a stuck front caliper. But wait, there's more.
And now this car has got a broken dual mass flywheel, a DPF that is basically dying, and then to top it all off, the other day somebody reversed into this car, completely destroying this wing and the bonnet. Look at that, look, all in there, look, and that's all bent and horrible. And the best bit about that, of course, is that they just drove off and didn't leave any details. Cheers. As ever, I have a collection of basic tools. I've tried to buy all of the parts in advance that I hope I might need. I've even managed to get the instructions, official instructions from Volkswagen, and I've printed those off for all of the different jobs. And then importantly, I have my holy energy drink. I'm going to be needing this. Right, what we need to do now is talk quickly about diagnosis. So if we start with the dual mass flywheel. Now this might be difficult for you to hear. I'm not sure it would pick it up on the microphone, but there is like a horrible rhythmic clunking noise coming in this area there, and that's obviously where the flywheel is. Can you hear it? No, that's hard to... And obviously it rises and it falls with revs. And not only that, but occasionally it's hard to get in gear and you get a little bit of juddering. And then also if I turn the engine off, you know, with the diesel sometimes it can have a bit of a, you know, a clackety when you turn it off, but only a little bit. On this it can really quite shake. Let's see if it does it. It doesn't always do it. Ooh. Did you hear that? Okay, so now if we talk about the DPF, so you can see I've got no lights on the dash whatsoever. Everything's good, and I've scanned the car, and there are also no fault codes either. So here are live temperatures right now, and the one that I want you to focus on is exhaust gas temperature sensor 1. This is the one in the exhaust manifold, pre-turbo, and it's 125 degrees C. So let's go quickly and just test to see if that 125 degrees checks out in the real world. 131. So about 132 degrees measured at the actual source there. And then let's come back, and then so the screen is still saying 125 degrees C. Okay, that's quite close, but here's the problem. I've done this exact thing multiple times and I always get different values. Sometimes it works and it matches like it is right now. But you can see here on screen where I did another one of these tests a couple of days ago, and that sensor is reading 71 degrees C. Now, when I actually measured it in real life with that temperature gun, it was closer to 170 degrees. So it was about 100 degrees off. Now, what I've noticed, I've done this test multiple times over multiple days. It looks like that sensor has got an intermittent problem. And I think that is what is causing the DPF to smoke. And so this is the DPF right here connected to the turbo right there. And what happens is that these DPFs, they regenerate themselves. They get filled up with soot from the exhaust and they have to constantly regenerate themselves to kind of burn the soot off. And that happens really quite frequently. It's just getting the wrong reading and it's impacting when or how the DPF regenerates. And so what's happening is it's getting blocked up with lots of soot, and then when it does finally start to regenerate, it's letting a lot of smoke off, and you can see it literally pouring out of the bonnet. I can't recreate it right now, just trust me, it does. And now the other reason that a DPF might smoke is because of the oil seals in the turbo apparently can fail, and then oil just goes straight from the turbo into the DPF. But I think if that was my problem, the DPF would smoke all of the time. In actuality, it probably only smokes once every 5 times that you drive the car. I am going to remove this DPF and I'm going to clean it, and then I'm also, whilst I'm in there, I'm going to replace that exhaust gas temperature sensor, which I'm not looking forward to. I'm going to be honest with you.
But before I could even think about cleaning the DPF, I had the monumental task of removing and changing the clutch and flywheel. To begin with, you have to remove the airbox. Then you remove the battery and the battery tray. Then you remove various components of the gear shift linkage. Study the instructions as best you can. Undo the main hub bolt by 90 degrees. And then make the first of 1,000 70-metre round trips to the shed every time you forget something. In this case, a can of WD-40. Before returning and then instantly realising that you forgot all of your star bits because, you know, Volkswagen. Go to jack the car up, being sure to kneel directly on a big stone. I have a Jaguar S-Type floor mat that could help with that. And it was at this point that I really started to wonder, why did I start to do this job so far away from the shed? And once the car was jacked up, I discovered a tiny bolt.
Sure. Tiny little bolt.
And it was at this point that I got my first glimpse into how bad this front brake really was.
I don't know much about brakes, but I'm pretty sure the top of it isn't supposed to be like that, and that is due to, you know, just excessive heat in the thing. And I don't know if you can see that, but that is some lip. That's massive. Now, of course, what could have happened in here is that maybe, I think these brake hoses can collapse internally, and that might have been making the caliper kind of stick on. I don't really know, but we will get to the bottom of it. I'm very out of breath. I am moving at a rate of knots, a rate of not doing very much, to be quite honest with you.
And removing this seized caliper and disc required some prying, some bishing, some bashing with a bigger hammer, and some bishing and some more bashing.
And you can see this disc is basically trashed at this point. My only concern really is if all that heat was going through the disc and then made it bind to this. I mean, this is the wheel bearing. Is the wheel bearing damaged? Are the bearings going to have been damaged? And you can see in here with the caliper right there, that seal there is just completely disintegrated. And I haven't tried, but I imagine if I was going to try and push that piston back into the caliper, it wouldn't play ball. Come on, surely. Come on, you pig. Get off. This silly. Okay, well that was just a completely unnecessary amount of work. I haven't even got the gearbox out. This is, come on.
Nobody does distractions like I do. Then it was time to remove the starter motor.
Oh, it's the starter motor.
Told you. Then followed by the fans. And then the central exhaust clamp, and as is customary with almost every car, these were mildly seized. And it wasn't just this end of the exhaust I was having problems with either. I was also having problem at the DPF end.
Okay, so the problem I've got here is I'm just trying to take the DPF off, and this is the clamp that clamps it to the turbo. This top part of the clamp is properly stuck on there. I cannot get that off. I can't get anything in there. It's, you know, that side's off, and it's just, if I keep pushing it, it's just bending. It's just really this bit here that's stuck. I've tried hammering it, I've tried clawing at it, screwdrivering it, using a little pry bar, try and get in there. It's just, that is just so stuck on there. Fire! Yes. Oh, fire fixes everything. Oh, it's trashed. I've absolutely trashed this clip. Just get out. Oh. That shouldn't look like that. And I tell you what, I am absolutely flagging. I could 100% do with a little pick-me-up. It's genuinely tasty. I have just totted up the price of all of the parts needed to repair this car, and the price came to about £1,200. Now, when you take into consideration the fact that I overpaid for this car in the first place, you can see how this channel got its name Not Economically Viable. I don't think there are many people that would spend £1,200 fixing this car. I think a lot of the time these cars pretty much end up in the scrapyard, when really what we should be doing is just creating a lot less waste and keeping things going. And that's one of the things that really appeals to me about this brand Holy. You see, you get one of these shakers, and then all of the drinks, they come in these little sachets like this. So the only thing that you're actually throwing away is this sachet. You're not throwing away an entire can, you know, like a load of the other energy drinks that you get. One of the other problems with these cars are as well is the fact that we keep replacing all of the parts with really cheap kind of, you know, Chinesium. So I'm actually trying now to buy much nicer parts. The better the stuff you put in, the better it's going to treat you. And it's exactly the same with your body. With those other energy drinks that you get on the market, you know, they're full of so much junk. You know, and the worst one for me is any drink with taurine in it. It's the makes you do that, you know, it feels like you actually want to take off. And that's one of the other things that I love about these Holy drinks. They're all full of natural ingredients. There's none of that nastiness in there. And these guys are new to the UK, so what I would recommend is I'd recommend picking up the starter set. There's a link in the description below, and if you use my code NEV5, you'll be able to get yourself £5 off your first order.
And now I need a solution for the fact that I destroyed the DPF clamp.
I have a secret weapon though, that is my sister.
Hello?
Bianca, are you still at work?
Yes.
Can you save me?
I'll try. Got a Golf.
Yeah, the clamp that goes DPF to turbo. Stop.
Don't know him.
Yeah, she works for Motor Parts Direct.
£15 plus Nino.
Yeah, the price doesn't really matter, it's more the speed to be honest, but thank you, yeah.
Yeah, they've got in tomorrow morning at 11:30.
11:30 tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Bianca, thank you so much.
I know, I'm good. Bye.
Bye. Okay, let's pour some stuff down it, and let's try and clean it. You know, let's try and do something productive with this DPF while we've still got some sunshine. Not sunshine, sunlight, you know what I mean. And now this is gonna look silly because you just saw me put the camera down and then I'm doing the walk. Okay, so here's my plan. It's a very simple plan. I've got this nozzle hooked into the hole there where the oxygen sensor goes. That's just gonna sit in there. And then all I'm gonna do is I bought this off Amazon. It had really good reviews, DPF cleaner, wins. And then I've got a 15-litre tray there, which is just going to catch everything coming out at the end of the exhaust. Not the end of the exhaust, the middle of the exhaust, I hope. Oh, yeah, well, I've just spilt it everywhere, so that's good. Yep. No. Okay, this is silly.
And it really was silly. I was trying to use off-car DPF cleaner with the DPF still on the car. So I decided to just forget the whole thing and move on to the stuff that really mattered. And that was removing this gearbox. So it was off with the drive shafts before calling in the big guns. And with the engine and gearbox supported, I can now release them from the mount.
Okay, I don't know where that just came from. There we go. There we go. Down, 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 down. Oh. Oh. Yeah. Oh. Okay, I'm stuck. Oh no, that's gonna fall. This is sketchy. Oh. Oh, if I don't cry, I'll laugh. What a faff. Right, first thoughts are, this side of the clutch doesn't look too bad. It is worn, but it's not too bad. However, when you look at the other side, well, the first thing that caught my eye was, you can see there's some scoring there, look, goes all the way around there. And then when you turn it over on the other side, you can see this clutch is clearly worn. Look, some of those rivets, are they rivets? They're, well, I mean, that's, which one? There was one of them that felt almost proud, that one. But you can see that clutch there is clearly worn. So I was right, my diagnosis was right. And then in terms of the flywheel, now I'm no mechanic, but I do believe with a dual mass flywheel, there is supposed to be a little bit of play, you know, side to side if you want, but I don't believe, according to the internet, I don't believe there's supposed to be play back and forth that way. That is a lot of play, and that is what I think is causing me all of my issues. I think it's just going, I was having trouble getting the gearbox over this bit of subframe there, so I am wondering for reinstallation whether to, well, to actually drop the whole subframe. It's quite a lot of bolts, it's a bit more work, but I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to get that back in there. Okay, so I've pulled the old flywheel off of the engine, and if you see this, there is some movement in there, but it's very slight. Look, side to side, it should do that, but that's really quite tough to move, very slow. And then of course we've got that movement, and then right here, this is the new LUK flywheel, and you can see the side to side movement. I mean, that's really easy. And then going that way, there's no movement. I mean, there's the tiniest little bit of movement, but it's not that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that bolted up to the engine, just clean off a load of the faces and that in there, and then I'll have to move on to the gearbox. Okay, and there you can see the new flywheel in. It wasn't actually too bad getting that in there. Those bolts, you do them up 60 Newton meters plus 90 degrees. And yeah, that's in. And then I just got distracted again, and I removed the exhaust gas temperature sensor. Obviously that's the old one. This is the new one. Access for that isn't great. It goes like right in down there, so it's a bit of a tough one, but it's not too bad, to be honest with you. It could be a lot worse. So I think, I mean, I'm all out of order, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to get that exhaust temperature sender put back in. I've got here, this is the new clutch slave cylinder. That's going to go in the gearbox, and then I'll fit the clutch to the flywheel and all that, get all that lined up, and then we're well on our way. Then I think I know what I'm doing. I'm procrastinating because I know I've got to get that gearbox back in here, which is going to be Boy, let's not think about it just yet. Let's not think about it just yet.
My procrastination managed to spill over into a new day. Another day closer to Naomi potentially giving birth. Another day closer to returning the rental car. Another day closer to being carless at a time we really need a car. I really need to get a move on.
And seeing how Naomi was the only one of us that was insured on the mighty Vauxhall Crossland, she very kindly made the trip into town to pick up the DPF clamp.
And so actually I forgot to show you. So this was the clutch that came off of the car. You can see how worn it is right through there. And then this is what the new clutch looks like. So you can see lots of depth there on those grooves, as opposed to that one where there's just not. And there it is, the clutch and pressure plate back on. Hopefully it's all lined up and centered, and it doesn't just, you know, fly off and disintegrate into a million pieces when I'm doing 70 miles an hour on the motorway. How'd you get on? Right. We got the exhaust clamp. You can't see it, but the new temperature sensor is in there. I've got the new clamp there. Obviously I need to fit all that back up, but I'll do that later on. And now if we come over to the gearbox, I've cleaned out all inside. I've fitted the new slave cylinder. Everything's torqued to the correct amount. That's all looking good. A little bit of a very thin layer of grease on the spline there. You don't want too much grease because it can basically flick off, land on the clutch and, you know, just contaminate it. It is time for this to somehow go back in there. Come on. Come on. Yeah.
Is it not going back in?
Huh?
Is it not going back in?
It'll go back in, but just, yeah. Just, like, these things aren't meant to be done like this, you know. Go on. That's it. Go on. That's so close. Yeah, go on. Oh, yes. 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 Yes, 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 yes. Take the slack. Take that slack. Oh, those are my bolts. Come on. Ah. Never again. Never again. That, ladies and gents, is the gearbox back in. I just need to go around and torque up all of the bolts, the gearbox to engine bolts. That's in, mounted. Starter motor is back in. Need to connect it all up. I've still got all of the connectors off and everything. We lost a little bit of oil. It's because you have to kind of tilt it upwards and around this thing here, and it poured out, you know. But it's all right because I was going to do the gearbox oil anyway. I'm cream crackered. Satisfying though, that is intensely satisfying. So now really what I've got to do now is just a case of literally just bolting everything back together again. This bit shouldn't really be too bad.
I really needed things to go smoothly at this point, so naturally I encountered a problem instantly.
I've just found out that these inner drive shaft to gearbox bolts are one-time use only. Looks like a trip to VW is in order. £41 for 12 bolts.
And so I just cracked on reassembling this car. Jobs included, but were not limited to, reinstalling heat shields, exhaust clamps, the DPF, reconnecting and routing sensor cables, reinstalling, adjusting and testing the gear shift linkage, refitting the fans, draining the old gearbox oil and filling with new. This was tedious. And while I had everything apart, I also replaced the wheel bearing because I'm just not sure how much heat would have gone into this wheel bearing from that seized brake. It just made sense to do this job now and save myself the effort later on.
And then in addition to all of that, I have now put the drive shaft back in. It's got a new bolt on there. So I'm just going to turn my attention straight away now to this caliper. I'm going to get the new caliper fitted, and I say new caliper, so it's a Pagid, but it's actually, you can see there, it's stamped VW Audi. It's a remanufactured, genuine caliper, which is absolutely fine by me. I'll take it. So I'm just gonna, like so. So that's the new caliper on. Also new Pagid brake hose, because I wasn't sure, well, I'm not sure if the cause of the sticking caliper might not even be the caliper. The hose might have collapsed, or I don't know. But I thought while I was in here, I may as well just treat her to a new hose, a new caliper. And now for discs and pads. New caliper, discs, pad. I haven't done the other side. I'm just going to stick to this side now, because what I want to do is I would like to sort this wing situation. So what I've got right here is a brand new wing. It's not a genuine wing, it is a pattern part, and it has been painted in the correct colour. This, I just found this on eBay. There's a company that sells these. This was £140, which wasn't much more expensive than a second-hand one in body colour. So, you know, it seemed like a no-brainer, really. Hopefully it fits. Okay, it might not necessarily look like it to you, but I'm losing the light very, very fast. But I have got that wing on. It's quite hard to actually see because of the light. I tell you what, let's reconvene in the morning.
The morning swiftly came, but so too did my arch nemesis, the rain. The rental car is due back in just a few hours. There was no chance of extending it, so I had no choice but to just crack on regardless. I am really up against it now.
Now, we were talking about this wing, weren't we? I hope you can see it. I'm trying to get back as far as I can. The wing is in, and I've got to say, I am really, really pleased with it. The panel gaps are all good. It lines up perfectly. Okay, so I've just pulled the caliper off. I just went to remove this disc retaining screw, and it's just completely stripped out. Nothing left of it whatsoever. You can't get a tool in there. It's perfectly, perfectly round. So oh yes. So what I'm doing now is I've just started to extract brake fluid from the reservoir there. I'm going to do a brake fluid change at the same time as bleeding the brakes and the clutch. It only makes sense, and it especially makes sense when the fluid that's coming out is that colour. Okay, and that is everything, I hope, bled. So I went around, did all of the brakes, which is, you know, is a bit of a breeze, especially when you've got one of these power bleeders. That thing is just absolutely brilliant. And to bleed the clutch, all you do is you just turn that bleeder valve when it's under pressure with the pressure bleeder. You attach your little hose on the top there for your collector bottle. As soon as you turned it, loads and loads of air came out. Then the manual says you have to close the valve again, pump the clutch, and I got a bit worried at the beginning because the clutch just went straight to the floor, but I kind of did it with my hand. I pumped it 10 to 15 times like it said with the valve shut. Then I reopened the valve, loads more air came out, closed it once more, took the pressure bleeder off of the power bleeder off of the reservoir, and the clutch pedal feels great, and so does so does the brake pedal. And I've topped up the reservoir. So all I'm going to do now is fit the battery tray and the air filter housing, and then after that I've just got to put on the wheel arch liners. I've purchased a new under tray. There's the old under tray down there. The holes had all gone elongated where you screw it in, and so it was just sagging, and you could actually hear it as you were going over speed bumps and things. You could hear it scraping. So bought a new one of them. I think that was about 35 pounds. So I want to get all of this done, get the wheels back on, and then get the car on the ground. And then it's time to see if all of this hard work is actually paid off, or if I'm in real big trouble because I have missed something crucial. Right, that is everything back together. She's down on the ground, everything's torqued up, the wheels are torqued, this bearing is torqued, you know, the hub nut thingamajigger. Now I am procrastinating slightly because, to say I am nervous about starting this car and seeing if that clutch and everything is worked, and it's not. Oh, it's an understatement. Also, I had to lay in all of the puddles to get the under tray and everything on. I think it's probably all over my back, which means I should probably take this jacket off so the missus doesn't kill me. Okay, here goes. Do we have drive? Please, please say we have drive. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, forwards. Oh, yes. Yes. I've done something. I have fixed another car. This is what life is all about. Get in. Yes. Yes. Oh, it's so nice to see when all your hard work pays off. Yes. Come on. What an ordeal. What an absolute ordeal. I love it though, really. I love it really. I always say it. Some people like to go fishing, some people like playing golf, some people like football, some people like knitting. I love, more than anything in the world, scrabbling around in the dirt and the wet, messing around with cars. Can't beat it. You cannot beat it. Okay, great news. So I've just been out for a blast up and down the road. Changes gear, lovely. Brakes, lovely. And you wouldn't believe this, you just wouldn't believe it, but I've just stopped working on the car and it's also stopped raining. Okay, but we aren't quite finished yet. We still have this issue here to deal with. And just like that, the new bonnet is fitted. I'm really quite happy with the gaps. In fact, it's absolutely spot on, which is strange because I did it. Let's just make sure that the washer jets work. Oh yeah. What an absolute result. So I'm gonna have to get some glue remover or acetone on there just to get a couple of bits of sellotape off. That's not an issue at all. But now you can see, look at that, lovely, no damage. This car is now looking absolutely ace. Obviously it needs a clean. I'm not going to subject you to that, you know the deal by now. But what this car does need is it needs the DPF regenerating. Now there are two ways to regenerate the DPF on one of these cars. The first is to hook up that software that you saw at the start of the video, and you can and then regenerate it that way. Or there's another way of doing it, and that's basically go for a drive, and then you have to hold the revs between 2,000 RPM and 2,500 RPM with the lights on, with the heater on, with a load of the electronics, everything on, and then hold it in that gap, I think for about 10 minutes, and then it should actually actively regenerate. I'm going to go for that option because I have got a journey to go and do, and I think it's good to just get some, get some proper heat through the system, get it all going again. And then apart from that, we need to take this smelly Vauxhall Crossland back to the rental place. I do hope you enjoyed this video. It was absolutely arduous at times. Please do hit subscribe. And if you enjoyed this video, you're probably gonna like this video where I first bought this car and got scammed. And now I suppose all I've got to do is clean all this stuff away.